On the last word this evening, India's aviation regulator, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, on Tuesday, that's the DGCA, directed GoAir to stop flying Airbus A320neo planes powered by Pratt and Whitney engines, which have operated more than 3,000 hours. On Monday, there was a similar directive that was issued to Indigo. Now, the airline has 15 days to comply with the instruction. Airlines operating A320neo or A321neo aircraft powered by these engines have faced several engine problems. We have here on Mirror Now questioned how these aircraft continue to fly despite these glitches. Does passenger safety mean nothing to the airlines and nothing to the DGCA? Let me quickly introduce my panel this evening. I have Sanat Kaul, Chairman of the International Foundation for Aviation, Aerospace and Development; Parvez Damania, former Director of Kingfisher Airlines; Sudhakar Reddy, Founder and National President of Air Passengers Association of India; and Captain S.S. Panesar, former Director, Flight Safety and Director Training of Indian Airlines. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Mr. Kaul, I'm going to come to you first. Why are airlines continuing to use this despite all these issues? Why this resistance to use these engines?
From Germany. I said, we are having dinner together, and since you said 10, I accepted.
Mr. Kaul, if you can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, sir. My first question to you is, why do airlines insist and continue to use these engines despite all of these issues, despite several warnings and reminders being sent to them?
Okay.
Well, the answer is very simple. I mean, they are a profit-making body. They have to run on their funds. So for them, it's economically very difficult to just discard these engines. So it's like any other. It's like a car company, a taxi company being told that your fleet should be grounded or this particular brand should be grounded. So from that angle, I think there is nothing much to discuss. Yes, they also don't want an accident, so they also want to be safe. They don't want their reputation damaged. To that extent, they take precautions. So from the airline point of view, yes, they have a financial problem.
Okay, but can we continue to say that the finances or that the airlines being taking care of their financial books should actually be a consideration when it comes to putting passengers' lives at risk? Captain Panesar, can we say that?
Well,
no. I would like to say
you're asking
something.
me or?
The Pratt and Whitney is one of the #1 best company in the world for manufacturing of engines. I have flown their piston engines right from 65 and the jet engines of Boeing 737. They are the finest engine manufacturing company. Now, it is shocking to know that this engine which they manufacture has creating continuous problem of failures. There are more than 120 engine failures during the last 2 years. Why doesn't the company manufacturer itself comes out to ground these aircraft? I know our DGCA is incompetent. They have no expertise to go to the safety of these engines. Why they are failing? They could not even establish it. And I can tell you the joke of the century. They issued a circular, do not fly these aircraft with 2 brand new engines. You put one new engine, one old engine.
Right.
That means you are suspecting the new engine is a bad engine. Another instruction they say, do not fly over the high seas. Third instruction is you fly from A to B with one airport within 100 miles of radius. So that if one engine fails, the pilot can land within 100 miles. Is it not a joke? You buying an aircraft with engine which is not safe to fly over the sea from Madras to Singapore or Bombay to Dubai. You can't fly over high seas. It's a joke. And what is DGCA doing it if the company is not? This is a total connivance between the manufacturer, airline, DGCA and the ministry. Why ministry is quiet? Are we waiting for the crash to take place? Indian Airlines 320 crashed in Bangalore in 1990 because of the fault of the pilot, not of the aircraft. But they grounded the aircraft for 7 to 8 months and airline could not raise its heads after that, so much losses. And how they start putting it now? Now this is funny thing. I'll tell you one other joke. One incident took place at Trichy. An aircraft took takeoff from Trichy for Dubai. He hit the boundary wall. He damaged the aircraft, but he was forced to land back in Bombay. Almost 1 year has passed. They have not come out with the inquiry report till today. What is the reason? What action they have taken? Now, how do you expect DGCA to ground these aircraft? They are not worried about safety of passengers. I don't know who's to take initiative in grounding these aircraft. Even the High Court, somebody has filed a PIL.
Right.
And High Court is asking DGCA to ensure these engines are safe.
Parvez
This
Damania,
is what is
okay, you know,
happening in
Captain
aviation.
Pani sir, very
It's
rightly,
shocking.
you raised this point, questioning this rationale. Parvez Damania, I think something else that, you know, the logic that really needs to be questioned over here is this run up to the fortnight. You know, the DGCA has woken up 2 years and decided to, you know, after 2 years and decided to be firm with GoAir and Indigo and said, okay, you have to do this within a fortnight. But why even give this 15 days leash? And in this 15 days, let's remember that there are passengers still traveling on that aircraft. Those lives are still put at risk. What's the rationale behind this?
First and foremost, it is virtually impossible to replace these engines within 15 days. These engines are not easily available, even if they're available, to get them from abroad, put them here. So this whole exercise is not really possible. And what is going to happen in 15 days? I mean, if something's going to happen after 15 days, it can happen now also. I have written innumerable letters to DGCA, to Pratt and Whitney, to Indigo. I've had very, very, very poor response. I've even written to them as a shareholder, but I've had no concrete response. I've been writing to DGCA, and I'm telling you something. I think DGCA's job is to see the safety of the passengers. I think somewhere the DGCA said if this fleet were grounded, there'd be huge inconvenience to passengers, there'd be huge inconvenience to the number of seats available. It is not the job of the DGCA to see the economics of the airline. Why is DGCA worried about the economics of Indigo? DGCA's job is to see the safety of the passengers. I mean, in the past, like Captain Panesar said, fleets have been grounded. Air India fleet was grounded. Indian Airlines fleet was grounded when the 320 was grounded. 777 was grounded, Dreamliner. Once helicopter fleet was grounded. Why are there different rules for private airlines and different rules for government airlines? The rules should be same. I have been saying this over and over again, and Captain Panesar is being all the people in the know of this subject, that this fleet should be grounded till the matter is sorted out. Again, I'm telling you something. They are always saying this aircraft can land and take off with one engine. I agree with that. But there are so many buildings in Mumbai, Delhi that have exceeded their height limits. The DGCA had ordered that these buildings should be demolished. The Supreme Court ordered. The DGCA has taken nothing, has done nothing. Now, what happens if an engine takes off on takeoff or landing? Another thing, in the past, when Captain was there, pilots used to become commanders at 35, 37, 10,000 hours, 13,000 hours. Today, the pilots taking command at 23, 24 years old. Their experience level is very small. So, I mean, this whole thing, we are walking on a very tight rope. This is a very risky situation, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. DGCA is saying, we are writing report, we are researching, we'll take out the report. DGCA has given no concrete report what's going to happen. I mean, why are we waiting for a catastrophe to happen? Just ground this fleet, end of story till this problem is solved. Today, you just read that Indigo has ordered some huge order for 300 aircrafts. Today, Airbus is surviving or makes a huge amount of money on the basis of orders from India.
Right.
Should the government have not brought Airbus to the table? Now I'm told that the Pratt and Whitney team is coming to be. They should have been done a long time ago.
Absolutely. Okay. So let's try and understand from Mr. Reddy, because it appears over here that passengers now have started to step in, as Captain Panesar rightly pointed out. But, you know, they've raised this query. But do you think, Mr. Reddy, that perhaps the DGCA or the airlines now need to have a facility to, you know, empower or let the passengers know that, okay, you know, you're going to be sitting in an aircraft that has a Pratt and Whitney engine. So perhaps, you know, you have the right to reserve whether you want to sit on this aircraft at your risk. Because, you know, beyond the seat number, beyond the gate number, beyond the name and the details on the ticket, the passenger doesn't really know much, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is impractical, you know. Let us look at the facts. You know, all kinds of people check in, educated, uneducated, and very poorly educated people are the passengers. Now, with this kind of a mix how are you going to make them understand that they are flying a A320neo with a Pratt and Whitney engine? They don't know from Greek and Latin, all this kind of language. So it is the best thing that the DGCA can do is ground this entire fleet of 29 aircraft. And after the engines are changed, give them permission to fly again. Nothing is going to happen. No passenger will get impacted. No fares will go up. I am very, very confident that things will continue very smoothly. And it is high time that government takes action on this. Instead of giving 15 days like Parvez was saying, it is impossible to change the engines in 15 days.
Absolutely.
It's not a commodity that's available in the shop where you go and pay, pick it up and bring it and put the nuts and bolts. It has to be manufactured, and it has to be manufactured as per the new standards that they have already found out where the defects are. And these engines need to be made, and they have to be transported to India, and then they have to be fitted. That alone will take probably, transportation and fitting them and etc. will take 15 days. So where is the point in telling them that within 15 days you change the engines? I mean, it's a joke, if you ask me.
Absolutely, but then they should have acted on this much earlier, because these problems haven't come yesterday. Captain Pane, sir, you want to weigh in? Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say something. How the DGCA has permitted them to fly for next 15 days, can DGCA give a surety, or the ministry can give a surety, or the Honorable Minister can give a surety that no engine will fail within the next 15 days? And after 3,000 hours, only 3,000, what is 3,000 limit? Is even 1 month flying on one engine. And the engine is supposed to fly 20,000, 30,000 hours. Now they suspect that there's one bad engine. They're giving limit 14 days. Let them file an affidavit in the court that no engine will fail within next 14 days. Are we waiting for the catastrophe to take place?
Captain,
What is happening in aviation?
Captain, you are aware few engines are failed within a few hundred hours.
They wait for the World Agency to decide.
Okay, go ahead, Parvez.
No, I'm telling you something. Captain must be aware. These engines are on average supposed to do about 16,000 hours. Some of the engines have failed in a few hundred hours. If an engine that's supposed to do 16,000 hours fails in a few hundred hours, that means there is something very seriously wrong. I mean, we need to look at this. And another thing, I mean, I think you should bring the Indigo people on the show, because Pratt and Whitney is paying huge amount of compensation to Indigo. I mean, I don't understand. If the engines are so good, there is no problem. Why is Pratt and Whitney paying compensation? Government has never asked. I have asked the government, what is this compensation being paid? Nobody seems to be answering. I think Indigo has become so big that their attitude is, we are going to do our thing. You can keep saying, the television channels can keep shouting, we are going to go our own way. We are not going to listen to anybody. I mean, today, if they have these huge problems, solve your problems. You order 300 more aircrafts, but you've not been able to solve your own problem, which has happened in such a long time. Since 2016, this problem is occurring. God forbid we are lucky, and thank God no calamity has taken place. But we are still
But we can't learn our lessons. We can't learn our lessons because of that. I think repeated reminders from the DGCA should be enough, and the DGCA should not, start looking at, the finances involved and the inconvenience that's going to be caused to the passengers in the aircraft, but actually say that, look, we're valuing your life, so this is why we're doing this. Sarath Kaul, I'm going to come to you. You wanted to make a point. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. Basically, DGCA is the safety regulator of India.
True.
And safety is the paramount issue in this case. Now, what's happened to Boeing MAX, that 2 accidents took place, people lost lives? Is the DGCA waiting for something like that to happen? So he has to perform. What he has given just now, well, 15 days time, there is a debate whether 15 days or should have been done immediately is another issue. He has to consider it. But he should have done it earlier, because the safety is at peril. And I think what can happen, even if both engines fail or one engine fails, then there's some problem. Then the government is responsible, because DGCA is the government authority.
Right.
So I think there is an issue which other members of this panel have already pointed out. I don't want to repeat it, but there is something going on that is stopping DGCA from taking any action or taking an action which is now coming rather late.
Right, that's exactly what I wanted to ask and ask Captain Panisa to actually highlight, because you also spoke of a nexus. I'm sure this connivance and nexus that you are claiming exists in other countries as well. But there have been examples of other countries where there have been mid-air collisions, where there have been major and massive crashes. A lot of people have died. But subsequently, after that, action has followed. Passenger safety has been put first. So how can we, risk that above everything else?
You see, in foreign country, NTSB, DC-10 crash of American Airlines, 376 people died. They grounded DC-10 for 5 weeks. They didn't bother for inconvenience of the passengers. They were worried about the safety till they found out the reason why the engine fell off. Now, why it's becoming joke? It's not a joke, but it's a straight, according to me, it's a serious connivance between the manufacturer, airline, DGCA and the ministry. Why they're all sitting quiet on this issue? Are we waiting for a catastrophe to take place? Then only rise up? Because the innocent people who are traveling, they feel very happy. They are going by air. They are proud of flying in India. Our Prime Minister has opened up so much venues in Udan and all that for everyone to fly by air. Though these innocent people do not know the engines are unsafe, why should it be not 100% perfect? I don't expect an engine to be 99.9% okay to be put on board the aircraft.
Right.
The passengers don't know what is happening. But we know it, professionals know, the airline knows, the manufacturer knows. If airline doesn't ground, I think the manufacturer itself should ground the aircraft. Why they are not grounding it?
No,
What is it? Blades are breaking off, low turbine blades breaking off,
Right.
the gearbox is giving away, the
Absolutely.
seals are breaking. They're not one snag. There are multiple snags in this engine.
Sanjana,
No, I think the God should come and take action.
Okay.
We are not
Sanjana,
capable of
if you
taking
go
any
to
action.
see,
Yes, Parvez, go
when
ahead.
Kingfisher got grounded, there was a huge hue and cry. What will happen? How will India survive? What will happen? 74 aircraft Kingfisher grounded, nothing happened. Jet Air, 126 aircraft got grounded, airline closure. The market will adjust itself. So if this fleet of Indigo is grounded, India's not going to close down. Nothing's going to happen. The market will adjust itself. So the government has to take a stern action. The government has to take safety as priority number one. It doesn't matter if the fares from Delhi go for 6,000 to 6,500. Safety is of paramount. They have to ground this fleet. There have been innumerable debates, innumerable discussions. Captain Panisa has been on innumerable shows with me. And everybody saying the same thing. This fleet has to be grounded till the problem is solved. It is impossible, again I'm repeating, in 15 days to have this engine replaced. These engines are not available. They are manufactured in limited quantities. They are booked years in advance. I can guarantee you.
So Parvez, how long does this entire process take? Because let's remember, in August, the DGCA said this. The last time, just a second.
How can you replace them?
Sure, okay, but I'm just trying to understand for the benefit of our viewers and everybody, just to understand the technicalities here. The DGCA in August said that 40% of the domestic seat capacity in India is powered by these engines. So therefore, they can't take any knee-jerk reactions because, it will cause a complete shutdown of the operations. We are essentially now in November. I'm trying to understand how much time is needed to change these engines. How long is this going to take?
It is not 1 minute. These engines are very expensive. They are a major component on the aircraft, the cost component. There are no spare engines to replace. These engines, when you replace, it's planned years in advance that this engine is going to come replace in January 2020 and it's planned in advance. I can guarantee you, let's meet after 15 days and just check if any of the engines are replaced. This is not possible. I think we should write to Pratt and Whitney and ask how many engines you have spared for replacement. I guarantee you there'll be none. How is the DG saying 40% of the total seat will drop? Let us look at this one. Entire airline with 126 aircraft closed down, Jet Air, within such a short time. India adjusted. No, the market will adjust itself. The DGCA's job is not to worry about the load factors, about the economics. The only company that will get affected if this airline is grounded is Indigo. And the government has overlooked a lot of faults of Indigo. The government should come very heavy on Indigo. Indigo doesn't run DGCA. DGCA is a part of the government organization to look after safety of the country's flying public. I think the DGCA has to wake up and realize that.
Okay.
Right now, Indigo has got getting away with anything and everything up till now.
Absolutely. Mr. Reddy, go ahead. You want to weigh in? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I think
Hello.
my friend
may I
is
say
only
something?
talking about Indigo. Now, while I am not trying to support Indigo, it is 16 aircrafts of Indigo and 13 of GoAir have been asked to change the engines. Now, if you go by the number of fleet that Indigo has and GoAir has got, the percentage of the fleet that has been asked to be grounded or asked to be the engine to be changed is very high. 13 is a very high figure for GoAir. But unfortunately, both of them have not made any major changes in spite of this problem going on for years now. Now, I would like to assure you, your viewers and the passengers, that we are going to take a legal action first on the DGCA and make both Indigo, GoAir and Pratt and Whitney and Airbus as co-obligants in this case.
Right.
I can promise you within the next 10 days, our Delhi office will work on it, and we will see that before this 15 days, a PIL or a special leave petition is, submitted in the Delhi High Court.
Right. Okay, gentlemen.
like to assure you
thank you so much for all your time. I'm afraid we've completely run out of time.
May I add?
Yeah, Mr. Kaul, I'm sorry, we've completely run out of time. I have to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on the debate on The Last Word, where we were discussing about aviation safety, whether it is safe, whether the DGCA, whether the airlines can continue to put passenger safety last, whether they can continue to keep their operations, whether they can continue to keep the seat in festive season, all first before passenger safety. And on our debate also tonight, we'll be discussing the death that took place in Maharashtra. 442 custodial deaths recorded in the country last year. Maharashtra, as of Sunday, now accounts for 70 of these deaths alone. 22-year-old Vijay Singh, he was a resident of Sion in Mumbai. He worked as a medical representative in a pharmaceutical firm and died after he was detained at the Wadala police station in Mumbai for questioning in an assault case on Sunday. Now, this has put the spotlight back on the dubious distinction Maharashtra has of the state with the most custodial deaths. If this wasn't bad enough, there have been glaring inconsistencies. There has been no FIR, the family was lathi charged for protesting, and 5 police officers have been merely suspended. Is that enough? Should Maharashtra be doing a lot more to shake off this notorious distinction it manages to make year on year? Let me quickly introduce my panel this evening. Swapnil Kothari, senior lawyer; Dhanraj Banjari, former ACP of Mumbai; Shaina NC, spokesperson of the BJP; Shailesh Gandhi, former Chief Information Commissioner. Let me quickly come to you, Shailesh Gandhi. A police inspector, a sub-inspector, 3 constables of Wadala police station have been suspended after an inquiry into the incident. But there is no FIR. There is glaring inconsistencies in the probe. Can Maharashtra continue to behave like this and just look the other way when it comes to custodial torture?
Unfortunately, I think most of us believe and feel that what a number of custodial deaths, so-called custodial deaths, are actually custodial murders. And the torture and killing that happens is abominable because the police are supposed to ensure safety and ensure that the laws are followed. They are becoming illegal action orienters and torturers and murderers. This is a regular feature. And apart from this, 5 people being suspended in the last 1 year or in the last 3 years, has any action been taken against any police officer for custodial murder?
That is the relevant question. In the last 5 years, has there been anyone alleged to have committed custodial murder being taken to account? That normally doesn't happen. Absurd stories and absurd investigations are held. I remember following one such story 12 years back through RTI and learning that the final report said that a 5 feet 2 inch man had committed suicide by drowning himself in a 34-inch drum of water. This is the way we are fooled completely and we forget all about this. Let somebody tell us, has any action been taken against policemen? And the answer 99% will be almost no action has been taken. This is a serious matter and government needs to act on it.
Right, but Dhanraj Vanjari, is there any reason why there has just been a mere suspension? Why hasn't there been any FIR? And more importantly, after these guidelines that have come from the Supreme Court, all of these should have been put in place. I understand only 20 to 30 police stations in Bombay actually have CCTVs.
I understand the matter is very serious, as Mr. Gandhi has already reported. Matter is really serious. But let me explain why there is no FIR. Because ADR, it's an accidental death. Police are investigating under 174 CRPC. And let me tell you, as there is a provision of FIR in 154 CRPC, in 174 CRPC, there is a provision inclusive for inquiry and investigation. And if that investigation come to the conclusion that yes, there is a reason to record FIR of murder, there definitely would be a FIR under section 302 against the culprit. Now, what has happened, there are two autopsies being done in this case. Both the autopsies are giving similar reply, and the autopsy without the report of chemical analyzer is half done autopsy, or can be said for a primary cause of death being assurance. In primary cause of death, as per my experience goes as a police officer, they say that the death is not natural. It means the death is unnatural. And when death is unnatural, police have a liberty to inquire and investigate it under 174 CRPC. I think that they are doing it. Now, coming to the part of suspension, definitely there is some lapse on the part of the erring police officers. That's why the superior police officers have rightfully taken the decision to suspend them. What must be those lapses? That, like in DK Basu's case, Supreme Court has given the guidelines that for arrest there is certain system. If you want to put a person under arrest, you are supposed to give him the cause for which he has been arrested. Basically, before putting him in lockup, police are thrashed with duty to do his medical from the government medical hospitals and to understand his condition. I think there is a lapse here in a procedure to follow such kind of arrest, and that's why the suspension has rightfully been done, that if these officers would be there in the job, no proper impartial inquiry can be conducted. That's why suspension is very well invited, and I am hopeful tomorrow after the chemical analyzer's report, the Visera has been preserved and been sent for CS report.
Right, but Dhanraj Vanjari, I understand what you're saying. There has been a lapse. There has been a lapse. Yes, suspension is definitely the need of the hour. But I understand that these suspended police officers have not even been interrogated. Isn't that also imperative? Once there is a suspension, shouldn't there also be an action to find out what exactly went down, what exactly has happened?
As per the police have taken their stand, it is very clear. They said that we have not hammered him, we have not touched him, we have not assaulted him. He was simply interrogated. The moment he started complaining about chest pain, he was removed to hospital, and after hospital, before admission, he was declared dead. So this is the police story. That's why I say whether this story is to be believed or not, that's why the investigation has been given to the crime branch. Let the truth finding process be complete and final truth will be there.
Right,
if there is a haste,
but even if
and in the haste, if you want to act and do something,
No, no, it's. I don't think it's about haste here, but it is also about the family of this young boy. Let's remember they have been sitting, staging a protest, demanding an FIR, demanding some answers, and I don't think that they are completely in the wrong if they want to do something like that. A 22-year-old young boy has been picked up. He has died in police
course
custody.
not. I never said.
This
I
is on,
never
this
said
has
that they
happened
are
on
wrong.
Sunday. This is we are on Wednesday. Okay, let me actually just bring in Swapnil Kothari here. Swapnil, the statements have not been recorded in the case. That's the first thing one does. This boy has died on Sunday. Why haven't the family statements been recorded as yet?
Sanjana, this is very, very unfortunate here, and you know, I can understand that people who belong to a certain profession will always tend to be a little bit soft as far as these kind of incidents are concerned. But you know, I think Mirror will have to, and you will have to really, really shout out from the rooftops relentlessly every single day, the way you have been doing with Mahul, the way you have been doing with PMC Bank. Otherwise, this is not going to meet its legitimate ends. This is absolute nonsense. In fact, this is nothing but a major cover-up, and what it is the police commissioner and the state government which is responsible, simply because public policy and law and order are state subjects. And unless and until they answer and they come forth and they take a very, very strong view on this, this is not, these suspension doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. It is not punitive at all. And it is very, very important that this thing is taken up in a very, very serious manner. Do you know something, Sanjana, that India has not even signed the United Nations Convention Against Torture. It has not ratified it. And that is what has stopped India from getting certain people to be extradited to this country. So simply because the governments out there, which are supposed to extradite them here, they say that your prison rules and everything, especially the inhuman treatment and torture, is very, very profound, is very rife in this country, in India, and that is the reason we are not going to extradite it.
Right.
So it's better that we do that.
Even if I'm not talking about United Nations, Shailesh Gandhi, this family is being lathi charged. They're being lathi charged for protesting outside the police station. There are no CCTVs at this police station, which is actually a Supreme Court order. There are no female constables, which is also another Supreme Court order. There has to be regular checks to ensure that instances of custodial torture don't take place. Are those even happening now? What are we talking about the UN when we can't follow Supreme Court guidelines that are mandated in our own backyard?
The laws are being broken and defied by the police, and since the police defy the laws, other people obviously follow. This needs to change, and it is high time, I think, as Swapnil rightly pointed out, maybe a channel like yours should take this up and find out how many people have been taken action against, or how many people have been held responsible and convicted for deaths in custody in the last 5 years in our police jails. I think the answer will be zero, most probably, and will be revealing. I wish someone from the police department or the government were to tell us how many people have died as custodial deaths and in how many cases action was taken. We take no action. What happens is, typically when a custodial death occurs, there's a bit of hullabaloo, there's a noise, we have discussions on TV channels, and then we forget about it. We forget about the fact that people have died. We forget about the fact that quite often, most often, these people are innocent. They may have done nothing really wrong, but they die because of police torture. They die because these are police murders and custodial murders. Let's start using the right word. Out of hundreds of custodial deaths, are there no police murders at all? I'm sure there are. We are not asking the right questions. We don't want the right answers. We don't want to admit that our police is actually behaving lawlessly, inhumanly with convicts. And we have the record of being completely insensitive to this, because we rank amongst the 10 worst countries in the world in terms of number under trials in prisons. 70% are the people in prisons who are not being convicted. And yet we continue this system. We don't care. We really don't care, because most of these are poor.
Right.
Majority.
Absolutely.
This boy seems to be slightly from a better off class, and therefore maybe there is a bit of hullabaloo. But if the poor die, we just don't care. And this is not saying good for us. It's not reflecting good on our own civility.
I also believe there's the state government role that actually needs to be brought in here. We have Shaina NC of the BJP joining us on the phone line. Good evening, Shaina. Thank you so much for joining us. I understand we're having some problems with your Skype connection. Shaina, often in such cases, what we're noticing is that sanction is not accorded by the state government. We're seeing that to obviously ensure a fair investigation, to ensure a fair probe, there was an amendment made, let's remember, in the Criminal Procedure Code, making it mandatory, making it absolutely mandatory to have a judicial inquiry into every case of death, person going missing, rape, police or judicial custody. But this rule has just not been observed. This has also been breached. I don't understand how many more of these deaths do we have to see. In 2014, there was that poor Dharavi vendor whose body was found on the railway tracks. His father has been running from one court to another. On Sunday, there is this death. Instead of reacting, the police have gone and lathi charged the family.
Well, I have a lot of hope that the crime branch investigates this case in totality, takes the record statement of the family members, friends who were present on the spot, and I think they are yet to interrogate the suspended cops. So we must believe that there is a lot of thinking to be done in Vijay's case. For any person, irrespective of whether he is 26 years old or even older, the reality is that he was picked up on wrong counts. The FIR filed against the couple for wrongful restraint, voluntary causing hurt, intentional insult with the intent to provoke, criminal intimidation, false information, acts done with common intention is known to one and all. But I think that the family's claims that when the couple was sitting in the police station and laughing and writing out their complaint and the policemen were hitting him with a belt, I think that is inhuman. The fact that Vijay got his first heart attack and the police ignored it is also a serious offense. And I'm not going to sit here in defense of the police, because if there is something wrong which has happened, whether it is Sandeep Kadam who kicked and abused him, or whether it is the updates given by the Crime Bureau, I think all the charges are very, very serious. We need to look at this in totality and set a precedent. There are so many other people who have died under custodial death. Yes, I don't think that that is something for us as a state to be proud of, but we must make sure that when there is a case that is registered, the convictions also happen in these cases.
But then why is that conviction not happening, Shaina NC? 5 police officers have been suspended. I don't believe you and Dhanraj Vanjari can continue making this point that the crime branch will do this. It has to start from the police. Why are we passing it on to the crime branch? Why not close the matter immediately when the case is reported?
Because there is a process of law which needs to be adhered to. Now, what the actual details were, whether the sub-inspector Sandeep Kadam and the assistant inspector Salim Khan and the 3 constables who have been suspended, what is the reason that they chose to act in the way they're acting, all of this needs to come out in the public domain. I do agree with you when you say that custodial deaths need to be viewed very seriously, and 90% of the deaths shown as suicide may be a natural illness also. That's also something that needs to be considered. There need to be reforms when it comes to policing, and there need to be reforms when it comes to custodial deaths. But the fact in this particular case is that the Crime Bureau has to investigate on multiple counts, and we must have faith in the process of law.
Harry, can we continue to say that, okay, this is why there are delays because a procedure of law needs to be followed? Why can't things move more swiftly? Is there some kind of resistance?
Is that a question to me, Sanjana?
Yes, Swapnil, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sanjana, see, I'll tell you, there is no question of any resistance here, or there is no question of any interference. It is complete laxity on this part. And the reason, Sanjana, why I mentioned about the United Nations is because unless, see, now the states are failing. It's very clear that there are several custodial deaths across the country. In fact, Thiruvananthapuram, a scrap metal dealer was tortured to death, and that is the only time the CBI court ever sentenced the cops to death. I don't recall any other instance where even the cops have been convicted for being sentenced to death. Now, the thing is, the reason why I mentioned the United Nations Convention is simply because if the impetus does not come from the center,
Let me come. He's
if the
putting wrong
Yes,
word.
yes.
if it does
Mr.
not come from
Vanjari,
the
just a
center,
second. Let Swapnil complete, and then we'll have you weigh in.
right?
Go ahead.
If the impetus does not come from the center, since the states are not doing their job, only then there will be force on the state up from the center saying that, look, we've signed this now, so you guys better take this very, very seriously and see to it that every single life, regardless of whether it is poor or rich. Sanjana, can you imagine that in a country or in a state, if any rich person was behind the bars, would he ever be tortured? No way. There would not be any chance at all in that case. It's only lives come cheap in this country, unfortunately, because we're a billion people, and especially the poor people. And I don't want to get into these emotional talk.
Right.
I want to get into more something which is more proactive and where there is a chance. Reforms have been suggested by the Supreme Court, but the state has not been doing that. It has slept over it, and it is the cops again who are responsible. And as you rightly pointed out, Sanjana, that why should we leave it to, there is a process that needs to be adhered to, yes, that the CBI needs to take, or the crime branch needs to take a look at it, but that's again another arm of the police.
Absolutely.
So why not? And why imagine something if एक सोचिए आपकी, if there was some person who was beating up, he lit a bike right at the couple beat that guy up, and then when a small boy went to give something to Vijay, he was also beaten up. So their immediate instant justice is rendered by the cops, but when it comes upon to themselves, there is no justice at all because they are above the law. And that is the unfortunate part.
Absolutely. You made your point, Dhanraj Vanjari. You want to step in. What we're saying here is that why wait for another arm of the police to take over? Because really this is starting to now appear like a very sarkari response that the police is offering.
Exactly.
I will request your panelist friends that to take out the prejudice from their mind. I am not here to defend the earring coughs. Kindly take out this prejudice from your mind. And since you are telling that you don't know any case of being convicted of police custodial death, there is a case of Nagpur High Court, there is a case of Nagpur Sitabardi Police Station where 12 cops, the officer of the rank of class 1 police inspector was convicted, and they are as on today suffering life imprisonment in the jail. If it is not updating, you try just to find out and you'll get it. Now, your basic argument I can understand. When you say that I am here to cover up the story and to defend my police fraternity, absolutely not. If at all you want to blame something, blame the law framers. Police is not making the laws in this country, my dear friend, for your kind information. Police is supposed to follow the law.
But they're not doing that.
They are not following that either, Mr. Vanjari. I'm not saying that.
They're not doing that.
There is a death, unnatural cause, but let me complete. I am coming to the point. Let me complete.
Yes,
Asking the cops for blame, there is always a judiciary. You can question a cop over there. Let me ask my great panelists, the way they are trying to attack on me, let me ask them that whether they know that in this country not a single state where police is autonomous. Why do not the question the Home Ministry, where the Chief Minister retaining Home Ministry for no proper sense with him? Where is the news? Why you are trying to hang the entire police department when already the superior officer have taken action against the erring police officer and they have been rightfully suspended?
Right, they've only been suspended, but Mr. Vanjari, they have only been suspended. That's exactly what we're saying. And we're not blaming the entire police force. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, and that there is no personal attack here. Please understand. There is no personal attack here. What we are trying to understand, and I'm sorry, but I beg to differ there.
I'm not talking
action has not been taken. 5 police officers have been suspended. I'm sorry, that is not action. The probe has not begun. No, Mr. Vanjari, the probe has not begun. The statements have not been recorded. The 5 police officers have not even been interrogated. Instead, the police officers at the Wadala police station have gone out and lathi charged the family.
Sanjana,
why have their statements not been recorded?
Completely wrong.
Why have their statements not been recorded?
Probe has not started.
Why has the family statements not been recorded? Can you answer me why the family statements have not been recorded? That's the first thing you do. Why has the family statements not been recorded? Why are they standing outside and crying outside the police station, begging for justice? And they're being lathi charged for that.
This is as lame. Am I allowed to speak?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
This is as lame a statement as you do not know the provision of section 174 CRPC. 174 CRPC very clearly says that inquire the accidental death and come to the conclusion whether it is murder or not. That law is not framed by any police officer. It is the law of the country. They are simply following it. I never say that there is no delay. There is delay. And if suppose there is a delay, again you can hang the hearing police officers. There is law at your disposal. But defying the law, saying your expertise, you simply accuse the police that they are not doing this because you think they have not done it. You do not know the provision of 174 CRPC and you are crying over the police are not registered FIR. Police will register FIR, rather they will have to in this case, I am telling you.
Okay, okay, accepted. Shailesh Gandhi, let's just look at, let's just look at witness protection here, because even when the matter actually comes to court, witnesses are not really accorded protection, because that's another big problem that we're seeing. We're only seeing perhaps witness protection program maybe will ensure the safety of these witnesses and prevent them from turning hostile. Do you think that that is the need of the hour in cases like this?
Basically, we have a criminal justice system which banks mostly on delays. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years later, can you get witnesses to stick to their word? And the answer is no. The answer is only a clear no. It's a rare person. And when the police are involved, there is nothing that happens. We have a police complaints authority in Maharashtra. Unfortunately, a dysfunctional organization. They do nothing, take no real action against any policemen for atrocities. This matter is something where the police complaints authority should have immediately intervened, and they have not even bothered. The National Human Rights Commission should have intervened, not bothered. This is because we are callous. It doesn't really hurt us to believe that somebody can be murdered in prison by police torture. We refuse to look at it. Mr. Vanzara, it is not about you, it's not about an individual policeman. Right. And I understand that there are a lot of problems which may not be in the hands of the police. The government is responsible in a complete totality. And as I told you, there is a report I have of a person who is claimed to have died by drowning himself, a 5 feet 2 inch person drowning himself in a 34-inch drum. Such farces are routine. Let the government decide that every case of custodial death they will put up on the website and tell us what happened subsequently. They will find that they will not be able to defend this. Most of this is going because we are not valuing human life. And my allegation is with the media as well. The media doesn't follow anything subsequently. It is for 1 day or 2 days, it brings up the issue. What happened subsequently, was action taken, is something that we as a society do not bother about. If action was taken against the guilty, I'm sure things would change and we would have a much better society and much more law-abiding and humane policing.
True, true. Let me just open the line up to some callers now. I have Kiran joining me on the phone line from Vadodara. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on Mirror Now. Go ahead.
Madam, good evening. This police department is to be blamed first, but first they are acting on the behalf of government, state government only. So there is always a politician behind the police.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your views. Let me quickly bring in Shaina and see. Shaina, we've actually seen that such cases are getting worse year on year. If we're just going to go by the kind of cases that have been put out on the Rajya Sabha, I think I have the numbers up here. We're looking at 422 custodial deaths recorded in the country, out of which Maharashtra as of Sunday accounts for 70 of those alone. So I don't think we can continue to turn a blind eye to this. The state government has to be more sensitive. The police forces have to be more sensitive. We have to understand and we have to follow up and close the loop here, because really, as Shailesh Gandhi rightly pointed out, it's starting to show that there's no value of life in Maharashtra.
No, I think that you have a valid point there. But if we really look at even like what the Bombay High Court said quite recently on CCTV cameras in police stations, I think that needs to come into immediate implementation. Devendra Fadnavis ji, as Home Minister in the past 5 years, has made sure that Mumbai City has CCTV cameras. So
But we're not seeing that, Shaina. We're not seeing these were passed in 2015.
Yes,
We're in
yes, yes.
2019
So
now.
I'm just coming to the point. If you allow me to just complete a limited point that I have to make, is that if there is any senior inspector in a police station, these CCTV cameras have to be active, because how do you have investigations carried out? And where there are highly unsatisfactory cases, as this one appears to be, the only help would have been CCTV cameras. But I think long and short of it is that we need to re-look at the laws regarding custodial violence. We need to make sure that, we revive legislation to ensure that courts hear cases that come out of the definition of torture, or even if it is a fake encounter for that matter. So this is really important that we have the amendments made, not just in the state, but also in the center. And I think that can be a huge solution. As far as this particular case is concerned, as we know, the suspended police officers is one step in the right direction, but we have to get to the bottom of the case to prevent any custodial torture, or in this case, even if it is a heart attack or whatever the case may be. But I definitely would want to say that I agree with what Shailesh Gandhi said, that we need to really value life. Every life lost, whether in custody or outside, is a life which is precious. And if we get to the case in this particular one, it is only for the Crime Bureau to come up with conclusive evidence to figure out what actually transpired, starting with the investigation in the case, taking the statement of the family, and making sure that those who were present on the spot testify, so that these suspended cops have, not just a lax case, but that there is something strong, substantive. And the serious question that needs to be raised is why there was no CCTV camera in Wadala TT police station. Because if we have answers to these major questions, I'm sure it would work as a precedent in the days to come and in all cases.
Right. Answers that perhaps the state government and the police need to answer, but they're not really doing. This is what we've been seeing since 2015. Despite Supreme Court orders, none of this is being followed. A mere suspension of 5 police officers, no CCTVs at police stations, no proper checks for custodial torture. People go missing, they die in detention and custody, and nothing is done about it. Can we turn a blind eye to them? Doesn't the state and police force need to protect its citizens better? How much longer can these deaths be passed off as suicides, and how long before justice is actually delivered? Thank you so much for watching this evening. In fact, the Kerala government is mulling an appeal in fresh investigation against the acquittal of 4 accused in the sexual assault and death case of 2 minor sisters in Palakkad back in 2017. Now, there's been massive outrage after the acquittal of 4 men, with the opposition demanding a CBI probe, alleging the state's police investigation was a complete botch-up. This case actually dates back to January of 2017, when a 13-year-old girl's body was found by her 9-year-old sister at their home in Palakkad. 2 months later, the young girl was also found dead in her home in similar circumstances. Although 5 people, including a juvenile, were arrested, they were let off for lack of evidence, as the prosecution failed to prove anything against them. The acquittal was particularly glaring given the glaring lapses in the probe, including the post-mortem, which clearly indicated sexual assault. And that's a wrap on The Last Word. Stay tuned. Keep watching Mirror Now.